Primary source reader 2301 World History to 1500 by Dr. Joshua Pham. Number 10, Athenians and Democracy. Introduction. The Peloponnesian War started in 431 BCE, a conflict between two camps led by Sparta and by Athens. The Athenian historian Thucydides recorded a speech given by Pericles, the leader of the Athens at the time, called the Pericles funeral oration. In this speech, given after the first battles of the war, Pericles defended the Athenian way of life and why they will triumph against their enemy. Questions for the response paper. What makes the Athenians superior than their enemies, the Spartans? Does the fact that this speech was given in the midst of war change your view? What kind of democracy is the Athenian democracy? From this speech alone, who gets to participate and who is left out? Number 3, what was Pericles' view of those who refused to participate in politics? Primary text selections from Pericles' funeral oration. Many of those who have spoken here in the past have praised the institution of this speech. At the close of our ceremony, it seemed to them a mark of honor to our soldiers who have fallen in war that a speech should be made over them. I do not agree. These men have shown themselves valiant in action, and it would be enough, I think, for their glories to be proclaimed in action as you have just seen it done at this funeral organized by the state. However, the fact that this institution was set up and approved by our forefathers, it is my duty to follow the tradition and do my best to meet the wishes and the expectations of every one of you. I have no wish to make a long speech on subjects familiar to you all, so I shall say nothing about the warlike deeds by which acquired our power or the battles in which we or our fathers gallantly resisted our enemies, Greek or foreign. What I want to do is, in the first place, to discuss the spirit in which we faced our trials, and also our constitution and the way of life which has made us great. After that, I shall speak in the praise of the dead, believing that this kind of speech is not inappropriate to present to the present occasion, and that this whole assembly of citizens and foreigners may listen to it with advantage. Let me say that our system of government does not occupy the institution of our neighbors. It is more the case of our being a model to others than of our imitating anyone else. Our constitution is called a democracy because power is in the hands not of a minority, but of the whole people. When it is a question of settling private disputes, everyone is equal before the law. When it is a question of putting one person before another in positions of public responsibility, what counts is not membership of a particular class, but the actual ability which the man possesses. No one, so long as he has it in him to be of service to the state, is kept in political obscurity because of poverty. And just as our political life is free and open, so is our day-to-day life in our relationship with each other. We do not get into a state with our next-door neighbor if he enjoys himself in his own way, nor do we give him the kind of black looks which, though they do no real harm, still do hurt people's feelings. We are free and tolerant in our private lives, but in public affairs we keep the law to the law. This is because it commands our deep respect. We give our obedience to those whom we put in positions of authority, and we obey the laws themselves, especially those which are for the protection of the oppressed, and those unwritten laws which it is an acknowledged shame to break. And here is another point. When our work is over, we are in a position to enjoy all kinds of recreation for our spirits. There are various kinds of contests and sacrifices regularly throughout the year. In our homes, we find a beauty and a good taste which delight us every day and which drive away our cares. Then the greatness of our city brings it about that all good things from all over the world flow into us, so that to us it seems just as natural to enjoy foreign goods as our own local products. Then there is a great difference between us and our opponents in our attitude towards military security. Here are some examples. Our city is open to the world, and we have no periodical deportations in order to prevent people observing or finding out secrets which might be of military advantage to the enemy. This is because we rely not on secret weapons, but on our own real courage and loyalty. There is a difference, too, in our educational systems. The Spartans, from their earliest boyhood, are submitted to the most laborious training in courage. We pass our lives without all these restrictions and yet are just ready to face the same dangers as they are. Here is a proof of this. When Spartans invade our land, they do not come by themselves, but bring all their allies with them. Whereas we, when we launch an attack abroad, do the job by ourselves, and though fighting on foreign soil, do not fail to defeat opponents who are fighting for their own hearths and homes. As a matter of fact, none of our enemies has ever been confronted with our total strength, because we have to divide our attention between our navy and the many missions on which our troops are sent on land. Yet, if our enemies engage a detachment of our forces and defeat it, they give themselves credit for having thrown back our entire army. Or if they lose, they claim that they were beaten by us in full strength. There are certain advantages, I think, in our way of meeting danger voluntarily with an easy mind instead of with a laborious training, with a natural rather than with state-induced courage. We do not have to spend our time practicing to meet sufferings which are still in the future. And when they are actually upon us, we show ourselves just as brave as these others who are always in strict training. This is one point in which I think our city deserves to be admired. There are also others. Our love of what is beautiful does not lead to extravagance. Our love of things of the mind does not make us soft. We regard wealth as something to be properly used rather than as something to boast about. As for poverty, no need to be ashamed to admit it. The real shame is not taking practical measures to escape from it. Here, each individual is interested not only in his own affairs, but in the affairs of the state as well. Even those who are mostly occupied with their own business are extremely well informed on general politics. This is particularly of ours. We do not say that a man who takes no interest in politics is a man who minds his own business. We say that he has no business here at all. We Athenians, in our own persons, take our decisions on policy or submit them to proper discussions. For we do not think that there is an incompatibility between between words and deeds. The worst thing is to rush into action before the consequences have been properly debated. And this is another point where we differ from the other people. Taking everything together, then, I declare that our city is an education to Greece. And I declare that, in my opinion, each single one of our citizens, in all the manifold aspects of life, is able to show himself the rightful Lord and owner of his own person, and do this, moreover, with exceptional grace and exceptional versatility, and to show that this is no empty boasting for the present occasion, but real tangible fact. You have only to consider the power which our city possesses, and which has been won by those very qualities which I have mentioned. Perhaps I should say a word or two on the duties of women. To those among you who are now widowed, I can say all I have to say in a short word of advice. Your great glory is not to be inferior to what God has made you, and the greatest glory of a woman is to be least talked about by men, whether they are praising you or criticizing you. That is the end of number 11.